Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Privrajikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Privrajikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktarinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Munamai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, 19th chapter, text 35, also 36 and 37, because 35 and 36 they don't have purports. You can repeat after me. Nishtam te narake manye hi apradatuhu pratishrutam pratishrutasya yo nishaha patipadhyaitum bhavan nishtam te narake manye yapradatu pratishrutam Patishrutasya yonisha Patipadyaitam bhavan Nishtam te narake manye Hipradatu pratishrutam Patishrutasya yonisha Patipadyaitam bhavan Nishtam te narake manye Yapradatu pratishrutam Patishrutasya yonisha Patipadyaitam bhavan. Please chant. Nishtante narake manye Anyone online would like to chant?
Nishtante narake manye
Manye
yapradatu pratishrutam pratishyutasya navita pratipadaitam bhava.
Thank you. So this is synonyms. Nishtam, perpetual residence. Te, of you. Narake, in hell. Manye, I think. He, indeed. Apadatuhu, of a person who cannot fulfill. Pratishutam, what has been promised. Pratishutasya, of the promise one has made. Ya anishaha, one who is unable. Patipadaitam, to fulfill properly. Bhavan, you are that person. Translation. This is Shukracharya speaking. Yes, you will certainly be unable to fulfill your promise, and I think that because of this inability, your eternal residence will be in hell. Text 36. Learned translation. Learned scholars do not praise that charity which endangers one's own livelihood. Charity, sacrifice, austerity, and fruitive activities are possible for one who is competent to earn his livelihood properly. They are not possible for one who cannot maintain himself. Text 37, translation and purport. Therefore, one who is in full knowledge should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts: for religion, for reputation, for opulence, for sense gratification, and for the maintenance of his family members. Such a person is happy in this world and in the next. Purport. The śāstras enjoin that if one has money, one should divide all that he has accumulated into 5 divisions. 1 part for religion, 1 part for reputation, 1 for opulence, 1 part for sense gratification, and 1 part to maintain the members of his family. At the present, however, because people are bereft of all knowledge, they spend all their money for the satisfaction of their family. Srila Rupa Goswami taught us by his own example, by using 50% of his accumulated wealth for Kṛṣṇa, 25% for his own self, and 25% for the members of his family. One's main purpose should be to advance in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. This will include dharma, artha, and kama. However, because one's family members expect some profit, one should also satisfy them by giving them a portion of one's accumulated wealth. This is a shastric injunction. Om Agyana Timirandasya Agyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Vilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam, that messed it up. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatrubhishcha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Parai Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shrinivari Pashtata Desha Tarine. So this is Shukracharya is speaking, as we know. Is trying to convince Bali Maharaj not to give this wealth to Vamanadev. And he's given different arguments, and he's backing it up with Shastra, as everyone should. And he's saying that if you do this, because of your inability to actually do it properly, you will burn in hell. You will go to hell. And then he also says that learned scholars, they do not praise the charity which endangers one's own livelihood. So charity, sacrifice, austerity, and fruitive activities are possible only to do them if you're competent enough. If it's not gonna encroach you, or it's gonna hurt you, it's gonna take away from you possessions. So we have to have competency. We have to make sure that there's enough to maintain ourselves before we give, especially in this example, everything that we have. So there's a few arguments being given by Shukracharya. And he also explains how the wealth should be divided. Those people who are in knowledge, they divide wealth properly. When I read this verse, I was kind of hesitant. I was feeling hesitant to believe that the wealth should be divided like this, at least from. But then Prabhupada confirms that in the purport. The reason why I was feeling like this because Shukracharya is giving that instruction, and we know that, and we've been hearing lately that there's a difference between a bona fide spiritual master who is trying to take responsibility of a disciple to make sure that he's progressing in spiritual life, and someone who's just interested in his own gains out of this relationship, guru-disciple relationship. And that's what it seems like with Shukracharya. He's intending to get something out of this relationship with his disciple. And also I thought of the few verses in the Bhagavad Gita, on that part of Srimad Bhagavatam, when I read it. First one is 18th chapter. In the beginning, Kṛṣṇa says, Yagya, Dana, Tapa, Karma. Those three things are not given up even by saintly people. Natyajam karyam evatat. Saintly people do not give it up because it purifies even advanced Vaishnavas. And in our ISKCON we have examples of that. His Holiness Indradyumna Maharaj is very known for supporting different Vaishnava projects, including the Veda base. He donated for that. So yeah, it's quite important. Also, I thought of a verse in the 6th chapter where Kṛṣṇa speaks about dhyana, meditation, and he lists or says that the life of a yogi should be regulated. He says, Yukta hara viharasya, and he says, Yukta chishtasya karmasu, Yukta svapnava bodhasya, Yukta bhavati dukhaha. And if you regulate your life, specifically work, recreation, eating, sleeping, and waking up, if you regulate these things, then it helps you to gain some freedom, or maybe a large amount of freedom from the dukkha, the pains, the material miseries. So that helps one to be concentrated on the goal, on the object of meditation, if you have this regulation. One time Srila Prabhupada said that the whole material world is infected by the fault-finding propensity. And that's a big problem in the world, especially when money is involved. That even escalates and becomes very troublesome for people. As they say, love makes the world go round, but money is the grease. It's greasing the wheels. So money is a big problem in society. It becomes a source of deviations and conflict, even within one's family. But here we hear in this pastime of an example of Bali Maharaj, who is ready to give everything to the Lord, all the wealth that he has. And his family is quite noble in that example also. His grandfather is Prahlad Maharaj. One time he said that money is sweeter than honey. And Srila Prabhupada gives an example in the purport that sometimes people, they accumulate money and they risk their lives. They risk their lives for example, working as merchants. You go into the sea and you're trying to look for valuable jewels and you're risking your life just to obtain something, then eventually to make profit of. Or also an example of a thief who is risking his life to go and break into someone's house and someone's property and steal some money. Actually, in America, as of latest statistics, there are over 800,000 burglaries in a year. But now it's actually decreasing because people are stealing money from your bank account online. So they making attempts to do that. And we all receive those messages, right? If we connect to some social network somewhere, Wi-Fi, and then all of a sudden we get these messages on our phone, job-related or DMV or something like that, insurance. So that's the way people trying to steal money these days. And also we have the professional soldiers. They also risk their lives to gain wealth. Often when you talk to people outside, you meet a soldier, a U.S. military, and you ask them, why did you join? And for the most reason they say, because they pay well. There's some social benefits. So that's why we joined military. So, yeah, dividing money isn't easy. It's, of course, mostly appropriate for the people in the family life. It's not easy to divide money because we work so hard for this money. But Shastra, they give advice how to do it, and we learn here also. Ultimately, Srila Prabhupada explains that our main purpose should be to please Krishna and to advance in Krishna consciousness. That should be our main concern when we make money. So in this way, Srila Rupa Goswami also explains in his example that majority of his wealth he gave for religion, for religious purposes. When he was ordered to work for Nawab Hussain Shah, what he did with Sanatana Goswami, they built a replica of Vrindavan in the place where they were staying, in the village of Ramakela, they were staying. And majority of their wealth was spent actually in building this, because they built bathing places, Govardhan Hill, so in this way they can be immersed in always remembering Krishna. And then when he became a sannyasi, when he renounced his job and went to follow the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also gave 50% of his collections to the brahmanas and to support the temples. 25% he gave to his family relatives, and another 25% he gave to or saved for some unexpected circumstances which might arise in life sometimes. So, yeah, this is important to be mindful, to follow Srila Rupa Goswami, his example in how to divide money. That's what we are meant to do. Srila Rupa Goswami is, we are Rupanugas, and Rupa Goswami is a Rajashishta. He is a king of learning. We learned that he is very proficient in knowledge, how to divide money, and of course how to understand Shastra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is an eternal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And is also known as Rasa Acharya. He was expert in Rasa theology. Regulation is important for the main reason, because when we regulate and when we divide wealth properly, it helps us to be concentrated on our goal, on the object of our spiritual life, in Krishna. And material collection and over collection can lead us to offenses. We can make offenses. And if we make offenses, of course, it's difficult to progress spiritually. Actually, if Harinam Chintamani, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that if we make aparadhas, especially towards sadhus, saintly persons of the Vaishnavas, spiritual master, if we not trying to give them up, and if we it becomes a habit, a habitual thing, if we're not trying to give it up, it becomes a part of our life. I'm just making offenses, I'm offending the Vaishnavas. Then not only he can stop the spiritual progress, it's away from spiritual life, but it can also pave a path to hell. That's what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. So it's very important for the Vaishnavas to give up that offensive mentality. This is our important concern. So here, also in text 25 and 26 of this very chapter, there is an understanding of how Vaishnavas should be content. We all should be content in how much money we're able to get by the providence, by Kṛṣṇa, by our karma. We should be content. It's very important to be content in spiritual life, not only with money, but with our situation, with our, where we placed, and with our aparabdha karma, how we, what type of body we have, what type of mentality, nationality. It's important to be content with these things and engage it all in spiritual practice and sadhana bhakti. It says here that the cause for the continuation of material life, which is full of repeated birth and death, is that discontent in regard to fulfilling one's lusty desires and achieving more money and more money. But one who is satisfied by that, which is obtained by destiny, is fit for liberation from this material existence. So, whatever we obtain by providence, we should be content with. One time, I just on this trip to Oregon, I met a person. He's a hiker, and he was hiking through Arizona by himself. This is just somewhere in the wilderness. He was taking like weeks to do it, and at some point he was lost. And what happened? He broke his leg hiking. And you know how they have a SOS button, they can call it up and a helicopter comes and save that person. But he didn't want to do it, he wanted to continue. He had strong will and he believed that he could do it. And he did it, eventually. He was saved, and I met him, he was recovering, he was limping a little bit. And he also told me one time in the wilderness, he was hiking with his friend. And it was so cold, it was in winter time. It was so cold, they were freezing to death. So they started a fire. And at some point they realized they have nothing to, no more wood, nothing they can burn, put it in the fire to continue getting the warmth from the fire. So what they did is they look in their wallets and they pull out the money, the dollar bills, and they start putting that in the fire. So at that time he said, I lost quite a lot of money just to keep myself alive. And to be satisfied, to be content, also if we look at the example of Srimad Bhagavatam and this family of Bali Maharaj, Srila Prahlad Maharaj gave us a wonderful instruction to cultivate our spiritual intelligence, spiritual life from the very childhood. Durlabham manusham janma tada pedro martadam. He says that this human life is durlabham, it's rare. It is also adruvam, it's impermanent. But although it's rare and impermanent, it's artadam, it's very... everyone's seeking that life of a human being. So although it's temporary, it's full of meaning. We should utilize human life properly and cultivate sufficient intelligence, spiritual intelligence to progress on the path of bhakti. And then as Srila Prabhupada says, that if we make our goal Krishna consciousness, developing, advancing Krishna consciousness, everything else would be included, including dharma, artha, and kama. And I guess another thing that I'll emphasize shortly before I end is the fact that how much importance it is given in the purport to give, also to not leave your family life in discomfort, and also support your family life in terms of dividing your wealth. It's important. Like Mukunda Charan Prabhu gave an example yesterday about Brahmananda Swami, how Srila Prabhupada, he gave him an instruction to be very respectful to his mother, and Satsarup Goswami also. You know, if you want to make your mother, if you want to give mercy to your parents, you can also do that. It's up to you. Srila Prabhupada would give that choice to make to his disciples. So as members of Hare Krishna movement, we also are not neglectful of that instruction, and we're trying to be respectful and loving children to our parents. And if they require some support, we can arrange something to support our family members. Especially if we have, like an example of Śrīla Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, if we have some wealth and if we're renouncing, if we take a path of sannyas, we can also give some of that wealth to our family. So I'll stop here because of time, and we can start a discussion if you like. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you for a most enlightening talk. I'd be interested in hearing you explain further why it's important to maintain reputation and how the maintenance of reputation can ultimately perhaps also serve spiritual ends.
Mm-hmm. We're trying to be engaged in serving Guru, Vaishnavas, and reputation is essential because when we have relationships, it's based on reputation, faith. If I don't have in someone, I probably won't engage him in service. I probably won't trust that person. So reputation, if we have good reputation, outstanding reputation, then we can see that many opportunities of service will come to us. And trust will also be built in the community among the Vaishnavas, our spiritual master. So that is important. That's something about reputation.
And I'm also curious about that point that David's bringing up, because it seems the reputation that you're talking about is like a very clearly Krishna conscious kind of conception of reputation. Whereas, kind of like you started the class with, it seems that Shukracharya, when he's talking about reputation, it doesn't seem to be inherently like a devotional, reputation, like in terms of your character and qualities. He seems like, some of your money should be set aside for reputation. So it seems like if your reputation is based on money, what kind of reputation are you talking about? So I'm also curious. This verse, like you started the class with, basically, I was also curious about this verse, how it's coming from Shukracharya. There are other parts, there are other statements by Shukracharya which we don't agree with in the Bhagavatam. There's also that statement which it seems when Shukracharya says, I don't think it came up yet, that he lists 8 or something, like 7 or 8 different reasons when lying is justified. Did that come up already? Do you know?
I wasn't around.
Not yet? Okay, so it's coming up. And when he says it, then in the purport, seems like Srila Prabhupada signs off on it, like, yes, we accept this, that these are like the valid reasons for lying. Some of them are obvious, to save someone's life, to save your own life, save a cow. But so here, so I'm curious about that. But then a separate thing that I was going to ask about is that in the verse, Shukracharya says you should divide your wealth into 5 parts, and then it doesn't. And then Srila Prabhupada in the purport seems to agree. Says yes, the śāstras enjoin that if you have money, you should set it aside. You should put it into 5 parts. But then he goes on and he refers to what we more commonly hear: 3 parts, 50%. How does he put it in here? He doesn't say the Krishna consciousness movement. He says what?
For Kṛṣṇa?
50% just for Kṛṣṇa. 50% for Kṛṣṇa, 25 for one's own needs, and 25 for family members. So he just said it's a Shastra conjunction, and then he says, therefore we follow it, and therefore 3 categories. But it seems like he's signing off on what Shukracharya says. But Shukracharya, if you look at his 5 categories, 3 of them are sense gratification, basically. Reputation, or at least it's material stuff. Reputation, opulence, sense gratification are all kind of the same category from our perspective. So then you still have religion. You still have maintenance of family members. So it's kind of a stretch to say that Shukracharya is saying the same thing. So I'm also surprised that Srila Prabhupada says, yes, 5 parts. Shastra says this. And then he says, but then we never say that. We never push 5 parts.
Yes.
And then Srila Prabhupada says, yes, 5 parts. And then he says, therefore Rupa Goswami. But then it's 3 parts. And then he wraps it up. This is a Shastra conjunction. So which is the Shastra conjunction? Yeah. So it's curious. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was also a little surprised by what I thought of. Maybe there's better thoughts, but maybe just a speculation. But he's saying that for people who are bereft of knowledge in the beginning, Shastra enjoin that money should be divided into 5 parts like this. So people who are not devotees, they should at least do that. Because they are not Krishna conscious, they don't follow. But this is just a speculation. I could be wrong. But then when it comes to the Vaishnavas who are ISKCON devotees, then we follow, as Rupanugas, we follow Sri Rupa Goswami's instruction, and we divide it in this way. So maybe Vedically speaking, we should at least do that minimally. But then if we are devotees, then we can follow the example of Sri Rupa Goswami. That's just a thought that I had. But
Hare Krishna. When you mentioned how one should be satisfied with the type of body, nationality, it reminded me of, I guess there's a certain, maybe I shouldn't generalize it, but there's a certain ethnic group, as a graduation gift for high school, the parents allow them to have one plastic surgery done. Yeah.
yeah. I have no comments about that. Thank you for sharing. Anything else? Thank you for making this discussion alive, by the way.
I think that the confusion may about dividing into 5 or dividing into 3 parts by Rupa Goswami.
Yeah.
This is a different situation. And Rupa Goswami was taking sannyas.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the parts for the family. It's that's it. That's the final 25%. I think there's a different format here when you're not, because the other one was that he's going to be staying in family life. In other words, he has to keep giving one. How much is it? 1/5, 1 part for 1/4%, 1 part to maintain the members of the family. But there's no more 1 part of members of the family for Rupa Goswami. There was just that one shot. This is at the moment of renouncing everything. This is how he divided his big boat full of gold. That describes he cashed out. He had a big boat of gold. That's like more than $1 billion. So he's describing, I think, a different format here. And because Sukracharya is assuming that Bali, is going to continue in his position. It's not that he's, going to give everything to Vamanadev, but he said if you promise him whatever he wants, he'll take everything. So I think it's a little different lens that you're looking at here. That's my idea.
I think the counterpoint to that, though, Drid, would be that some would say that Srila Prabhupada here is saying, it's from Rupa Goswami, but, and you're saying, well, this is a bit different, the format's different, just these 3 parts, because he's basically taking sannyas, and so but the counterpoint would be that Srila Prabhupada, when bringing up this point, says that therefore all the members of the Krishna conscious movement should follow this format, and they should give 50% of their wealth to the Krishna conscious movement, which is an awkward thing, because I wonder if we could maybe even safely say that not a single member in the Krishna conscious movement actually gives 50% of their earned wealth to the Krishna conscious movement, like overt, like directly. If anything, we may find an example where it's like, well, the person's so fully engaged in service that if it's spent for them, it's basically spent for the Krishna conscious. If they're spending it on their car, well, it's basically the movement's car because they do so much service. Maybe you can stretch it to that. But the awkward thing, I think, is when Srila Prabhupada says, therefore, this way of dividing your money, 50% to the Krishna conscious movement, 25% keep for yourself, 25% family members. Everybody should follow that, not just like the people taking sannyas. Then it becomes still seems a little inconsistent.
Yeah, there may be a call for some editing here.
Wait, how?
I don't know yet. I have to look at it real carefully.
What kind of editing would you potentially think about?
Well, I mean, the thing is, what you're saying is there seems to be a contradiction. And I have to look at it really carefully and discuss with my other members of the BBT editorial board and see if there's first of all, I'd like to look at what Prabhupada actually said on the tape, because sometimes there's something that's lost that would reconcile this. So,
But are you talking about, maybe there's an editing thing regarding all, like the different instances where Prabhupada brings up this 50, 25, 25
this
ratio?
particular purport that we read here.
Okay. But this purport aside, would you think, is it valid to say that Srila Prabhupada bring up this 50, 25, 25 percentages? It seems that there's a steady recommendation that this is for all the members of the Krishna conscious movement, and therefore it seems to be not just for Rupa Goswami or a sannyas type.
Well,
Vaishnava.
the part, yeah, I mean, because in many other places, he does mention that the householders should give 50% of their earnings to the movement for the spread of Krishna consciousness. That's kind of a much more famous one than this other one that
The Shukracharya. Yes. Prakashas. Prakash is about to pledge 50% of his income.
Jai. Haribol. Prabhu, was
He lost his job.
anyways, was Rupa Goswami married? I just curious. Okay, but was he married previously? He was? Oh, okay. It's okay.
Who were his kids? He had to. It describes he gave 50%. So 25%.
That was to his wife, not to other family members?
So,
It's his family members. They expect something.
But it was his wife, he had wife and kids he was giving it to?
so
No kids. Okay. He had a wife.
yeah, it's usually.
I thought it meant family members like other family members, not like my descendants or wife. Okay.
I know in India, like many devotees, they work and give money to their parents and then only join the ashram. And they don't even allow like brahmachari to just join. If their family, like in Chowpatty and all, it's like there is a rule, like you have to take care of the family before you join, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's different managerial decisions, but that's not exactly like a shastra or Prabhupada decision.
Yes.
It's like, but there are certain regional ways of managing brahmachari applications and so on.
Yes.
Okay, I don't think Rupa Goswami was married, was he?
I guess it sounds like he was, but didn't have kids. At least something about his wife.
Well, we can look it up. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.